8 games at home, including the opener October 21st against the Suns. Well, how about a little more Rolling Stones on this Wednesday? Yeah, the Portland Fire hung tough with the Minnesota Lynx last night, trailing by as many as 29 before eventually cutting that Lynx lead down to 1 before falling 85-81. The Fire storms into Seattle tomorrow night for a 7 o'clock tip-off. And you feel like you need some more football in your life? Well, we've come to your emotional rescue. 6 preseason matchups on the docket tonight, including Lions at Bengals and Packers at Steelers. And if you're hoping for more Chad doing, well, you can't get no satisfaction this afternoon. Curtis Long in on the Rip City Drive next.
All right, listen up, y'all. I'm y'all substitute teacher, so don't even think about messing with me. Y'all feel me?
Yeah, welcome into a Thursday edition of the Rip City Drive, and I am definitely in the position of a substitute teacher here in the iHeart Studios at the beautiful intersection of Interstate 5 and Highway 217. For those of you who don't know, I am Curtis Long.
The principal.
Yeah, that's right. Longtime elementary school principal here in the Portland area, but also a part of the Trailblazers radio network right here on Rip City Radio 620 for many years. And I'll be along with you for the next 3 hours. And first of all, I have to say that I'm honored, humbled, have to say a little hyped up that Chad has handed over his lesson plans and asked me to sit in for him on this award-winning radio program. And in case you haven't heard, Chad is off the next week or so on a much-deserved vacation. So you know substitute teachers, and I know this with my background. They like to have detailed plans, when to teach what, maybe a seating chart. Well, Chad didn't leave any of that, and I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose. He basically dropped a blank template on the show right into my lap, and basically the gist of our planning went like this.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Okay, so we surely hope Chad has a great vacation, but let's get this show off the runway. Great 3 hours planned for you, and that includes your phone calls. Gonna need those with a substitute here. 503-248-0620 is the number to call. We'll make sure we cover the usual segments Chad has on this radio program, and more than likely throw in a few of our own. Perhaps we'll throw in a little caller-driven TV game show from the 1970s. There's a little radio tease for you. Or examine this particular day in sports history. Show's jam-packed thanks to the usual crew on hand. In fact, like any good substitute, let's take roll right now.
Take roll here. Balake. Where is Balake at? Yes, sir.
My name's Blake.
What? Do you want to go to war, Balake?
No.
Because we could go to war.
No.
I'm for real. So you better check yourself.
Yeah, no Balaki here, but you know who is here? You often hear him right here on Rip City Radio 620. It's the one and only Brendan Slaughter behind the glass holding this show together. Brendan, great to see you. You excited to be here while the boss is gone?
Oh, absolutely. It's good to see you too, Curtis. Nice to see you outside of a Blazer venue, which is usually when you and I are working next to each other. We're always, dishing during Blazer games, which I always love. It's great to hang out. And, it's always nice to have a little shakeup, as we all know. Chad doing hardest working man in radio.
Yes.
So he deserves a little time off. And, I'm excited to be here with you, man. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, finally, some positive progress as far as the Moda Center renovation goes. And then additionally, man, what a gnarly schedule we're going to have to talk about here, Curtis, because the Blazers didn't get an easy one.
No, if you've been following along on X, you're seeing a lot of people giving their reaction to the Trailblazers schedule. We'll get to that for those of you that are just getting in your cars or maybe haven't had a chance to check it out. The schedule makers not kind to the Trailblazers. A lot of road trips, a lot of single-game home games. We'll get to all that. Of course, the big news coming out of yesterday as well that still has Portland Trailblazer fans buzzing, and really not as dramatic as maybe I think it would have been. It didn't take a last-second buzzer beater with the shot clock running out, but the Portland City Council did indeed agree to a term sheet that accounts for up to $125 million worth of Moda Center renovations, which now means the city's commitment brings the public's total contribution up to $573 million for the original renovation and nearly $300 million for ongoing capital expenses. Now, Multnomah County, you may remember, already committed up to $101 million to cover its portion of the arena project and ongoing capital expenses, and on top of more than $300 million from the state that had already been committed to as well. We've got KATU investigative reporter Wright Gazaway coming up in about 15 minutes to break that all down for us. He covers City Hall. He's one of the evening anchors there, and It's interesting talking to him. I want to see, is he really comfortable covering those city council meetings? You wonder if his hand, does it kind of go down a little bit when the assignment editor is heading out the assignments and says, hey, we got a meeting at City Hall tonight. I can't imagine that he raises his hand quickly for those, but maybe I could be wrong. He's been all over the story, and he'll tell us what happens now that the state, the county, and the city now on board with their funding commitments. There is a term sheet as a starting point to negotiate with the Trailblazers. So now what happens? Looking forward to talking with Wright Gazaway. Of course, that's coming up in about 15 minutes from now. Stick around for that. Rip City, you've had a little bit of time now to digest the news. How are you feeling about the funding deal and the terms of the deal? And we'll go over a little bit later on in the show. You can share your thoughts at 503-248-0620. You can tweet them directly to me at principal_long. Make sure you spell that correctly. That's Principal, P-A-L, not P-L-E. Some of you need to go back to elementary school to learn how to spell that word. That's Pleasure Principal. That's Janet Jackson. No, this is Principal_long. Now, Brendan, is certainly great to be in studio with you. We're going to have a great few hours ahead for our listeners. I got to ask you, and you chime in here with your thoughts. I mean, Chad certainly deserves to take a vacation. We're lucky enough that we get to fill in on this Rip City Drive. But, Chad, come on. You're going to leave us here in studio to talk sports in the middle of August? August? Brendan, is it possible that Chad strategically took this vacation because August, quite possibly the worst sports month out of the 12 months of the year? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, Curtis. I mean, I have a big smile on my face because last year at this time, around this time, I was just thinking, I'm like, when was the last time I had like an extended fill-in for Chad? I was like, August, fall camp. So, he's like I said, you know what you're doing when you're a legend, man, and he knows to maybe bail when things are a little slower so he don't miss any of the good stuff.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the phone lines lit up today, have great discussions, great interactions with the listeners. And Chad, he's going to be jealous when he hears the podcast of this show saying, what? I never get that much interaction when I'm on the show. That's right. You need to help out the subs here in the Rip City Drive. Sports fans can't possibly look at August coming up on the calendar and think, oh, yeah, can't wait for next month. Am I wrong to think that the only sporting event to get remotely excited about in August, well, it's happening tonight, NFL preseason football?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
All right, Rip City Drive listeners, let's put all of you on the witness stand this afternoon. Here we go. Brendan, you familiar with this theme song?
Of course.
Judge Wapner. We have to bring him in studio. Let's go to court. And you, the listeners, are going to deliberate on one simple question. I want your verdict. 503-248-0620. You can also text the show at 88528. What is the best month of the year for a sports fan? Is it March with, of course, March Madness? So it's the case I put before you today as I pound my gavel here in the Rip City Radio studios.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
Yeah, give me your argument for the best sports month of the year, because at least around here, I think August is really one of the worst. Which month do you look forward to the most? Now, you can plead your case at 503-248-0620 or tweet me directly at Principal Long, at Principal_long. You can also text the show at 88528. But back again, Brendan, to the boss man, Chad Doing, leaving us to host this show here on August 13th. Maybe we want to thank the Portland City Council for actually giving us some content to talk about today. Otherwise, August not exactly the best month for high-stakes sporting action. So I'm going to put it back out to our loyal Rip City Radio listeners. Which month is your favorite when it comes to the sports landscape? Brendan, how about you? We've got fall coming up. You do a lot of work with the Oregon State Beavers. I got to imagine you're going to pick a fall month.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because as far as the sports calendar goes, there's nothing quite like, football. But I kind of like that November football. When it gets a little deeper, the leaves start to turn, you get that crisp in the air. And then, selfishly, the Blazers are also getting started in November. And, Curtis, you and I are the sickos that are like all after Blaze, like game 1 of 82, ready to go. So that's exciting, too. I mean, personally, if you were to ask me, sports aside, I'd probably go with July. I really love the month of July. I'm a summer guy. I love Pacific Northwest in the summer, just like Chad Doing, being out there golfing. I don't golf, but I get out there as much as I can just to enjoy, nature, river floating, things of that nature. So I really like the summer. But as far as the sports go, I'm going to go November, December, somewhere in that range.
So you're saying November, December, but for recreational purposes, July.
Absolutely.
I'm with you there. You can plead your case to 503-248-0620. Tweet me directly at Principal_long. Text the show at 88528. I'm going to present an opening argument for a few months that you can deliberate about, but I'm sure there are lots of you that would object.
Your Honor, I object.
You would.
Now, listeners of the jury, I present to you the following evidence. How about January? It has the BCS Bowls along with the NFL playoffs. Now, March, we talked about that a little bit earlier. March Madness, of course, along with Conference Championship Week in college basketball. Now, April, Final Four, the Masters, along with the start of the MLB season. May has the start of the NBA and the NHL playoffs. You deliberate about those. I want to hear your closing arguments. 503-248-0620.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Oh, Brendan and I can handle the truth here for sure. That is for sure. What is the best sports month of the year? Certainly not right now. 503-248-0620 is the number to approach the bench, or you can tweet me at principal_long. Now, as this trial gets underway,
Please rise. Court is now in session.
I'm going to call my key witness up to the stand. Let's go.
Call the first witness.
All right, Brendan Slaughter, you've already come forward. You're going to say late November, December? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, November. Let's
Okay.
just go ahead and circle it into November because you're getting the final few weeks of the college football regular season. I think that's some of when the best games are played. As I mentioned, with the way the calendar works now, you're a week or so into the Trailblazers season. And, for me personally, Curtis, when I got, Oregon State and, rolling down, football-wise, and then you got the Blazers rolling, I'm really happy as a sports fan. But I would be remiss if I did not approach the bench and say, Curtis, I don't know if you can go wrong with what you mentioned. I really like April for the Masters, like you talked about. There's nothing quite like getting to just settle in for 2-3 days and just watch golf. I think, I think January, like you said, for when the bowl games come to be. Also, February still has the Super Bowl, right? So you've got there as well. So I think there's lots of ways you could go with it. I think it's, to your point, I think it's very easy. We could flip this on its head, Curtis, and say which is very easily maybe the worst month. I think we could say August pretty clearly.
Yeah.
We don't even have World Cup anymore.
Nope, no World Cup. At least July has that. That's every so often, every 4 years or so. So, listeners, I know you have an opinion about this. Call in with your verdicts, 503-248-0620. Text line is 88528. What is the best sports month of the year? I'll give you my top 2 coming up, and I want you to object to me.
Objection overruled.
That's what this show is for. When I think of the best month in sports, it's certainly hard not to argue for March, for April, and Brendan went with November, maybe early December. Yeah, we want all your thoughts as we head toward the first break. That's not all we're going to give you to deliberate on this Thursday edition of the Rip City Drive.
I hate to be in your shoes today. You have a lot to think about. You've seen much hidden evidence the American public.
Yeah, great show planned for you today over the next 3 hours or so. As you all know by now, the Moda Center funding deal is slowly piecing together. Earlier this month, Multnomah County voted in favor. And now just yesterday, the Portland City Council came through with a collective yes vote at 8-4. So where exactly do we go from here? And are there any details we should be paying a little extra attention to? We'll talk with KATU investigative reporter Wright Gazaway next. I'm Curtis Long, filling in along with Brendan Slaughter for the Vacationing Chad Doing, and you are listening to a substitute teacher edition of the Rip City Drive right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Scoot will bring it up. Brings it across the timeline. On the wing near side, gets some separation, has it in front of Murray. Left-hand dribble, and he takes off to the baseline. Bounce pass to Holiday, corner three. Got it. 19 for Holiday, and the Blazers have matched a franchise record with 24 three-pointers made tonight. They lead it by 13, 118 to 105.
Ah, isn't it nice to hear some Trailblazer highlights? Hopefully we can talk more about the play on the court instead of off the court coming up here. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive here on Rip City Radio 620. Curtis Long and Brendan Slaughter in for the vacationing Chad Doing. And although it is mid-August, the big focus today is, of course, on the Trailblazers now that the Portland City Council has signed off on their funding portion of the proposed Moda Center renovations, along with that revised term sheet. Now, we talked to Wright Gazaway earlier on. We'll replay that interview a little bit later on in the show for those of you that didn't catch that in the first hour. But Wright says that there are some adjustments, but not a whole lot in that original term sheet. Now, remember, the Blazers said originally that a term sheet is a non-starter. So the interesting point now will be, where do we go from here? Will the Blazers come to the negotiating table now that the state, the county, and the city have all come forward with their commitments? We'll have to see. Blazer fans, how are you feeling after yesterday's news? Relieved that the council's vote passed? Frustrated that it's taken some mudslinging along the way? Does this allow you to get a little more excited for the upcoming season? And hopefully we can talk more about what to expect on the court rather than off of it. This is your place to sound off, 503-248-0620. Good or bad, what's your Blazer mood right now? And will this current roster, especially with the addition of Ja Morant and the return of Damian Lillard, will it finish better than last season's 7th place finish in the West? 503-248-0620. You can also text the show at 88528. Now, I told you before the break that we would go over that term sheet now moving forward between the Blazers, Multnomah County, and the city of Portland. Let's take a look at some of the details. Now, remember, this is just a starting point. As Wright Gazaway said, we're out of the red zone, but not even to the 50-yard line yet. I equate it more of we have just tipped it off. It's probably the first possession for either squad, and the first quarter just underway in these negotiations. Here's where things are right now. The city's term sheet commits $120 million up front and up to $275 million for ongoing maintenance over the 20-year lease. In exchange for that investment, councilors want a commitment from the Blazers to remain in Portland for those entire 20 years. Now, the term sheet also asks for a $3 million annual fee to recoup property taxes the Blazers won't pay on the public building, a requirement that the team allows Moda staff to unionize, and $3.2 million in yearly rent, among other community benefits. I think that's a key point there. $3.2 million in yearly rent. I got to think Tom Dundon wasn't planning on that in these negotiations. $3.2 million a year and another $3 million annual fee to recoup property taxes that the Blazers, in essence, wouldn't have paid otherwise. Those community benefits commitments, those could be anything from requirements for community event access, local hiring, sustainability standards, partnerships with albino-based organizations. Now, the city delivered that draft term sheet to the Trailblazers. They delivered it, I should say, following council review. Next steps include continued negotiation with the Trailblazers to refine and finalize a term sheet as the city prepares for a council vote later on, and that their work session will be in October. This marks an important step towards securing long-term agreement that keeps that team in Portland and delivers a renovated state-of-the-art Moda Center for the entire community. So you hear those terms: $120 million up front, $275 million for ongoing maintenance, 20 years, the commitment on the lease. But here's the sticking points: $3 million annual fee to recoup property taxes. I got to think Tom Dundon and the Blazer Management Group didn't plan on that. And $3.2 million in yearly rent. That's another thing that likely was not planned on. Hey, another event involving the Trailblazers came out today. How about the regular season schedule was released? This is exciting. But as I look through, and I haven't had a lot of time to analyze it yet, and Brendan, you probably haven't either, but I'm looking at some of the local Blazer insiders through X and through social media. Not rave reviews for the Blazer schedule so far.
Yeah, just obviously it got released earlier today, so it was one of the things I was like, oh, Curtis and I are definitely going to be talking about that. So I tried to get into it as much as I could. And I'll say this, Curtis, because I'm always looking for the unique things in the schedule. And I think, our good friend Sean Hyken covered it pretty well on social media, kind of breaking down, yeah, it's really tough. I look at it even further and into the nitty-gritty, Curtis.
Yeah. What'd you come up with?
I find it interesting that there are some interesting game times. Typically, you would only see if the Blazers played on like Christmas or Martin Luther King Day, you'd see some early games. I looked like the 13th and 14th of February, Detroit and Chicago at home, back-to-back 12:30 games at Moda Center in the winter.
Is that a weekend?
Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, Saturday, Sunday, but both in the midday. Okay.
Yeah, so kind of interesting. Like the day after Christmas, they're playing at the Wizards. 10 a.m. for us here on the West Coast.
Chad will enjoy that pregame show.
No doubt, right? There's a few other unique times. Like there's a 2:30 game at Memphis on a Saturday. So it kind of seems like the NBA is kind of moving some tip times around. You know, it used to always be what it seemed like, 3 or 4 for the Blazers on the road or 7 at night. At home, now we're seeing more 8 o'clocks, which we all talked about not being the best tip-off time. But now some more day games, too, which I think this last year, Curtis, and you were at a lot more games than I, when they were able to do those family games on Sundays. I think that was a great thing for the fan base. And, even me selfishly sometimes, Curtis, I'm like, I'd like a day game instead of a night game, too. So those are some of my early takeaways. But it's going to be tough sledding for the Blazers early on. Just a gauntlet out the stretch.
Yeah, you said it, Brennan. 12 of the first 17 games are out on the road. 2 6-game road trips before the end of the calendar year, including one during Christmas, plus another 5-gamer in January. That's going to be tough. And for those of you that are wondering, haven't had a chance to look at when is the Blazers' first regular season game, well, set your calendar. October 21st, the Blazers will open up at home against the Phoenix Suns. Will be in town on October 21st, but then they head right out onto the road down to Sacramento to play the Kings that following Friday. And then Tuesday, they'll be at Los Angeles, Crypto.com Arena, to face the Lakers before returning home on Thursday, the 29th, to face the Memphis Grizzlies. So 2 of the first 8 games, just 2 of the first 8 are at home. Another thing I'm seeing here, you got some weird scheduling. Now, Brendan brought up the times, but look at some of these dates on how they're scheduling this. I'm just looking at late February, early March. They play a Friday game at home against Dallas, 2 nights later at the Clippers for 1 road game, then come back home for the following Tuesday. Who do they play? The Clippers again, and that's one of those 8 o'clock starts at night. So they go Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, home, road, home. Then they head out for a 4-game road trip, 3 games in 4 nights, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. That's at Cleveland, at Toronto, at Chicago. Come back halfway across the country to play at Golden State on Tuesday, March 9th. And then guess what? You play the next night at home, a back-to-back, road, home, back-to-back. That'll be against Denver at Moda Center at 7 p.m. So definitely some tough sledding for the Trailblazers. You mentioned that for sure. It's interesting to see, and you talk about those 8 o'clock games. Now, we are in the Pacific time zone. We don't like the 8 o'clock games. We can thank the NBA's media rights deal for that. We don't like the 8 o'clock ones. Think about the East Coast. There's no way they're watching these West Coast games, those 8 o'clock starts that take place midweek sometimes, 8 o'clock at night. That's a tough start time.
Yeah, obviously, as we know, the big giant NBC money grab that was the NBA's media deal. Obviously, you're going to have some 8 o'clock games. But additionally, too, Curtis, like looking at it a little bit further, I think it's interesting just how the schedule matchups shake out. Like just looking on like early – before we even get to November 12th, you're playing Oklahoma City twice and San Antonio once. Add in San Antonio a second time before we get out of November. But then, like, randomly, the Blazers won't play the Houston Rockets for the first time until March 30th. And then we'll have 3 games in, like, a week and a half. So there's always some interesting quirks. And I remember last year, the big thing, Curtis, with the schedule was, hey, it's going to be challenging early, but it was going to ease up as it went. And I think the Blazers were able to take advantage of that this last year.
They sure did.
This year, man, we got new roster, lots of new things to be excited about. But, they certainly gave the Blazers, I think, a pretty tough slate this year.
I always look for the back-to-backs in this, and I've seen them already now in November, the first back-to-back of the year, at Crypto in Los Angeles on Friday the 6th. Then they come back home on the 7th to face, no big deal. Only the Western Conference champion, the Spurs, the next night. And then it happens again. Less than a week later, they have back-to-backs on November 10th and 11th. There's one of those 8 o'clock starts at Moda Center, November 10th. That's a Tuesday. The Thunder. And then guess what? They play the next night again. the Thunder back-to-back. And the Blazers have had, they've had some struggles against Oklahoma City, as has most of the league.
One more, Curtis, that I wanted to circle just before we wrap up this segment, too. Monday, November 16th and 17th, back-to-back games in Minnesota. Mike Norrie's return to Minnesota.
Back-to-back right there in Minnesota. That'll be interesting as well. We'll break down the schedule a little bit more for you throughout the show. When do the Blazers face LeBron and the new-look Sixers? We'll get to that. Some of the other teams that you might want to see. Peyton Pritchard's return from the Celtics into Portland. It's always fun to see him. Kevin Love, if he's going to play it all this year, we'll see if he shows up at Moda Center sometimes this year as well. Well, 1 hour down, 2 to go here on the Substitute Teacher edition of the Rip City Drive. Curtis Long and Brendan Slaughter filling in for Chad. Coming up in the next hour, we'll dive a little deeper into this Moda Center funding triangle between the county, the city, the Trailblazers. We'll also get back to our opening segment, Rip City Radio Trial. Give us your best testimony. What is the best month of the year when it comes to being a sports fan? So far, the jury says not August. The trial continues next right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. It is straight up 4 o'clock in the Rose City. Good afternoon, Portland. That's right. Start me up. Let the negotiations get started. The Portland City Council yesterday agreed to a term sheet that now paves the way to begin talks with the Trailblazers about Moda Center renovations and a long-term lease. The terms commit $120 million up front, up to $275 million for ongoing maintenance. Official Blazers schedule released today. Portland opens up with just 2 of its first 8 games at home, including the opener October 21st against the Suns. Well, how about a little more Rolling Stones on this Wednesday? That's right. The Portland Fire hung tough with the Minnesota Lynx last night, trailing by as many as 29 before eventually cutting that Lynx lead to 1 before falling 85-81. The Fire storms into Seattle tomorrow night for a 7 o'clock tip-off. And you feel like you need some more football in your life? Well, we've come to your emotional rescue. 6 preseason matchups on the docket tonight, including Lions at Bengals, Packers at Steelers. And if you're hoping for Chad Doing, well, you can't get no satisfaction this afternoon. Curtis Long on the Rip City Drive next. This is certainly out of Chad's music bed. I imagine he's got some Toto in there for sure. Hold the line. Absolutely. If Chad's listening online somewhere, I'm sure he just cranked it up wherever he might be. Let's get back to the Rip City Drive. Curtis Long and Brendan Slaughter along with you on this Thursday afternoon. Let's start off with a little more sound. How about this?
The floor with Leitner. They throw it the left of the floor. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer. The Blue Devils win it, 104-103.
104-103, Christian Leitner with the game winner. Of course, March Madness right there. If you're just tuning in, you're probably thinking college basketball ended with one shining moment back in April, and this clown's playing a college hoops highlight.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?
Well, I started the show today putting you, the Rip City Drive listeners, on the witness stands. I want you to take your time to tell me, what is the best sports month of the year?
If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
You're right. It is our time. And you can state your case, 503-248-0620, or tweet me at Principal Long. You can also text the show at 88588. Abe Neal has tweeted me and says, October, Principal Long, MLB, NFL, NBA, along with college sports, doesn't get any better than October. Also got a text coming in at the text line, 88528. And this is from someone who says, well, I don't really care about the sports, but August is the best month because that's when all my family's birthdays are. Well, you got to like that too as well. So it doesn't have to be sports related. Let's head it back out to the phones. It's Chris in West Lynn. I think I know this caller. Chris, go right ahead.
Hey, Curtis, good afternoon. How you doing?
I know this guy. This is a very acclaimed, highly acclaimed PE teacher in the North Clackamas School District. How are you doing, Chris?
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're too kind. I'm doing well. I'm ready to get back to PE, but I saw you were hosting, so I wanted to call in and ask you a strategic question about the Blazers.
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right. What kind of offense you think we ought to run? You know, we have Ja, we have Lillard. Are we going to push the ball? Are we going to get up and score points, or are we going to slow it down? Try to feed the big men?
Chris, I think that's an excellent question, and I think you kind of answered it with the personnel the Blazers have. If they are going to have Damian Lillard, Ja Morant out on the floor at the same time, Shaden Sharp's out there as well, I think Mike Inori is going to try to outscore teams rather than try to lock them down. So I think that'll be the Blazers' offensive strategy. A lot more pick and roll, a lot more movement going on, and I think Donovan Clingan, he'll be in charge of racing the glass and getting all the rebounds inside. But I think it's going to be a fast-paced team. That's what I think Mike Inori has drawn up. That I think the Blazers, they're not going to be defensive-minded. Tamani Kamara is going to have a big job in front of him. He'll have the top scorer, and the rest of them are just going to try to outscore. Because let's face it, Morant and Dame, they're not known as defensive stalwarts, that's for sure.
Right. It's going to be a good season. I've got faith. And one more question for you, Coach Long.
Yeah.
Who is the best point guard to come out of Portland to play in the NBA?
Out of the University of Portland?
No, the
okay.
City of Portland.
Well, let's see. That's a tough one because you could say Damon Stoudemire, who came out of Wilson High. When I was at the University of Oregon, there was a point guard there from Grant High School, Terrell Brandon, who went on to be an NBA All-Star, who I say is one of my favorites of all time. So that's a great question. Who do you have as the best point guard that's made it to the NBA out of the state of Oregon? Do you put Peyton Pritchard up there?
Pritchard up there. You have Mike Dunleavy.
Yes.
You have Stoudemire, Terrell Brandon. Man, it's tough to nail one down. But in terms of guards, boy, Terrell and Damon were fantastic in their NBA careers. So shout out to both those guys. Good to hear your voice, Curtis. Thanks for hosting the show, and look forward to seeing you soon.
I'll see you soon, Chris. Get those PE lesson plans ready to go. I'll be dropping by your gym.
Love it. Take care.
There he goes. That's Chris out in the West Lynn area getting ready for another school year. Now, Chris has got a good gig, Brendan. Elementary PE. That's a good gig to have, and he does a great job with the kids. He's always got them moving and sweating, and then he sends them all stinky back to class. And the great thing about PE, you get them twice a week, at least in our district. You get them twice a week. If you're not really having a good time with some of them or one of the children are giving you a headache, you send them back to class. We'll see you in another few days.
See, that brings me back a little bit, Curtis. I want to say back when I was gracing the presence of Middleton Elementary, the home of the Mustangs, back in Sherwood, Oregon. Shout out. I want to say, and again, this is purely just off the cuff, it rotated every other day. So one day was PE, the next was music, and then it went back and forth. So one day you'd go to music class, and the other half would go to PE, and that's how I remember you rotated. And, man, I mean, shout out them both, man. I still miss that time, and I feel like some of those best games were created at elementary school level, like the little carts that you move around.
Oh, the little scooters. Yeah, you can make any game better with scooters.
So, I'm trying to youngin myself a little bit here, Curtis. Step back in time.
Absolutely. We'll take your calls on that too, Rip City Drive listeners. Your favorite maybe kid games or elementary school games that you played. A lot of tag. A lot of dodgeball. They don't really allow that too often anymore. You can't play dodgeball. You can't throw those rubber playground balls as hard as you can at kids anymore. Not really encouraged. I did mention at the top of the show that I would go through my top sports months, so let's take a look at some of those now. We've already played some college football highlights. I probably shouldn't mention my alma mater, even though I already did here on the home of the Beavers, but how about September? Yeah. Now, in September, you've got week 2 of the U.S. Open. You've got college football regular season beginning. You got the beginning of the NFL regular season, the end of the baseball regular season. The Ryder Cup happens every couple of years. And you've got European club soccer. Now, not too many sports fans who don't think fall is one of the best seasons. There's nothing like the anticipation of the cool weather, that transfer to meaningful sporting events. Here, the combination of the pennant chase, the start of both the NFL and the NCAA football, and the final week in Flushing Meadows for the U.S. Open in tennis is enough to make September, I think, a top 3 month. Now, we mentioned this one briefly. This one's kind of a sneaky good one. How about here?
This is for sole possession of the lead. Maybe. Yes, sir!
Yes, sir. Of course, that's Jack Nicklaus at the Masters in 1986. And, of course, the Masters always takes place in April. You've got the college basketball Final Four. You've got the Masters. You've got Major League Baseball opening day. You've got the NBA regular season going on in April. You've got the NHL regular season going on in April. So all of that happening in the 4th month of the year. You could definitely make a case for April to take the top spot. The combination of the Final Four, the Masters, opening day, all going down within a single week. That's pretty awesome. But beyond those big three, you've got a deluge of NBA and NHL games as the playoffs approach. Couldn't ask much more of April. So far we've heard from September. We've heard from April. How about this? Yeah, of course. January, that's the NFL. College football major bowl games and the national championship taking place in January. Of course, the NFL playoffs, the Australian Open. The NBA's regular season is going full swing at that point. College basketball conference plays underway. The NHL regular season, the NHL All-Star Game, and also some European club soccer going on as well. So that could be a big one as well. Now, we haven't mentioned this one quite yet. How about here?
As far as we know, the Portland Trailblazers aren't bad, but they sure are good, and they know it. It is Game 1 between the defending champion Detroit Pistons and the challengers, the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh, what could have been, Brendan? What could have been? They tied that series in 1990 at 1-1 with the Pistons. They won in the Palace at Auburn Hills, and everybody thought it was going to be a parade. Let's win one in the crib. We got to win it in the crib, said Terry Porter. Unfortunately,
I remember that.
They didn't win one in the crib. 3 in a row, capped off by Vinnie Johnson there at the end, and the Pistons took the title. But NBA Finals, someday, Blazer fans, that will be back in Portland. We will have the NBA Finals right back here in Portland. But in June, you've got the NBA Finals. You've got the NHL Finals going on at the same time. Wimbledon is going on. Week 2 of the French Open, the U.S. Open in golf, and the MLB regular season still going. So just think about in June, you've got the Stanley Cup, the NBA Championship, the biggest sporting event on the planet every 4 years in the World Cup, Roland Garros and the All England Lawn Tennis Club, the Maverick American Golf Tournament and the U.S. Open. Baseball's going on. June, it's pretty beautiful in June for sure. Other runners-up, well, we mentioned February. It's got the Super Bowl, college basketball conference play, the NBA regular season. The NBA All-Star Game is in February. The NHL regular season as well. How can the Super Bowl month get ranked so low as an honorable mention? Well, it's a fair question, but I see the NFL playoffs as a January more creature with the February Super Bowl day as kind of an anomaly. It's like that time when your dad remembered to send you a birthday card from prison. It's only notable because it's an exception. Well, that's how that goes. And how about March? That's a tough one as well. NBA regular season, NHL regular season, March Madness in March. We talked about that one already, and March is a good one as well. And then I think my favorite, October. MLB playoffs and the World Series going on at the same time. The NBA regular season begins, NHL regular season begins, and college football gets underway as well. It's already underway by that point. That's a great one. And then Brendan's in November. College basketball begins. You got the NBA happening now, the NHL, NFL is underway. College football is underway. So look at what you got going on in November. That's a good call, Brendan. You got college basketball starting off, but you got the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, and college football all going on at the same time. Sports radio at that time, not like now where there's a shortage of topics. Not so in November.
No, most certainly. I mean, even, you're right, I should have maybe even considered October because now we got the NBA starting in October. You still get a little MLB baseball in October too, but yeah, I mean, like I said, Curtis, there's you're not going to hear one iota of a complaint from Brendan in the summer because the Pacific Northwest summers are to die for. They are the best. It is perfect outside. Now, again, that all being said, there is something about the fall and the crispness of the air and getting some football, maybe even getting some basketball, and I just love that time of year.
Well, you can call in and give your verdict as well, 503-248-0620. Special thanks to Chris for calling in, and for those of you that are texting the show at 88528, we'll get to those as well. You can also tweet me at Principal_Long. I'm getting some tweets sent to me as well. What is the best sports month of the year? It's certainly not August, but a lot of you making great arguments for what is the best sports month of the year. Well, despite our best efforts, Brendan, the show has not completely burned to the ground with us in charge in the first hour. And speaking of burning, I was certainly fired up to talk to KATU's Wright Gazaway during that first hour. He's been all over this story and at every single city council meeting involving the Trailblazers since the opening gavel. What did he make of yesterday's Portland City Council vote? What's next for the Trailblazers as the Tom Dundon area just dawning? We'll reset that interview next in case you missed it in hour number 1. That's coming up right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Ball's picked up by Avdia. Gets it ahead to Scoot. Sees a seam. Drives and packs it in. Right past Zion Williamson for the pair.
Oh, he put Zion on a poster.
And welcome back into the Rip City Drive here on Rip City Radio 620. Curtis Long sitting in for Chad Doing. And I have to admit, even though it is in the middle of August when there isn't a whole lot going on in the sporting world, it's kind of nice to hear a Trailblazer highlight. Travis Demers on the call there. And once again, you'll be able to hear all the Trailblazers action right here on Rip City Radio. Again, this upcoming season, we'll have more details for you in the upcoming weeks about Blazer Radio broadcast. But one detail we do know is that it will not be a television simulcast. Another detail is that yesterday afternoon, the Portland City Council agreed to its portion of Moda Center renovation funding and an initial term sheet. What does it all mean? Well, who better to talk to than the man who has been all over this story since the opening gavel down at City Hall? It's KATU investigative reporter Wright Gazaway here on the Rip City Drive. Wright, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you've had a front row seat throughout this whole adventure with the City Council, from initial meetings to the work session earlier this month. How was the temperament of yesterday's meeting compared to others?
I actually was surprised at how quickly it got done compared to the county meeting. The county meeted for about 6 hours before they approved their term sheet, and it felt a lot more contentious. I feel like a lot of the city councilors were happy to be at this term sheet vote after so much work, both in private and at these public meetings, that it felt like a lot of the kinks have been worked out. So I was surprised at how quickly, relatively quickly, they got it done.
Were you surprised at the 8-4 vote? We talked to the Chair Dunphy, and he said it would be more than 8-4. He was very confident. Chad was kind of a little less optimistic. He thought 6-4 maybe, but 7-5, and then it comes through at 8-4. Were you surprised about that?
I think the reporting that we had done through working some of my sources, they were pretty confident in 7-5 and felt like they could get to 8-4. I never heard any optimism about it being much higher, just because they felt like what they could get in the term sheet. I think they're satisfied, certainly with the message that passing any term sheet sends to the team and to the NBA.
It's Wright Gazaway of KATU. Now, how does the term sheet agreed upon yesterday by that 8-4 vote differ from the original term sheet? The council added a few things.
The biggest difference is the request for rent at $3 million a year with an annual escalator. Otherwise, for the most part, it was pretty much the same with some minor tweaks around the language. But the biggest difference is by far that $3 million ask for rent.
Now, the term sheet does include a 20-year commitment to keep the Blazers in Portland, right?
Yeah, so they are working on a non-relocation agreement as well. That will be something they need to work out. But, yes, in exchange for the money, the team would, if the city gets this way, would sign that 20-year non-relocation agreement.
Now, didn't the Blazers at one time indicate that a term sheet was a non-starter? Do you get a sense that the Blazers will come to the negotiating table?
Certainly seems like the statement they gave me yesterday was that they appreciated the step forward. They acknowledged that there was a lot of work left to do, but that they were looking forward to working with the city and negotiating in good faith. And I don't want to overstate or understate this, but I think fans should know there is still a lot of work ahead to make sure that there's a final vote in December, because the team has not negotiated a single point in the term sheet. So a lot of work still to do.
Not a single point has been negotiated. That's a good point there. Now, we know it wasn't a unanimous vote, 8-4, nor did we expect it to be. But did you hear it all from the counselors who voted no? What were the biggest concerns there?
Yeah, I talked to one of them today, actually, Candace Abelos, and she just felt like she wanted the term sheet to be a little bit have a little bit more asks in it, understanding that they would maybe need to negotiate some of that. She just felt like this was setting the bar too low. And she really wanted to see just some other things in the term sheet. She was really hung up, and I think the others were really hung up on the lack of direct private contribution to the overall renovation project. So I think that was also a big sticking point for them.
So, right, I think some listeners and viewers might think, and we talked about this a little bit, all right, now that the vote's passed, it's a done deal. It's certainly not. A long way to go. What's next on both sides? We hear meetings in October, but is there anything that happens before then?
Yeah, so the city's negotiating team, along with the team, theoretically, will start really getting into the nitty-gritty of that term sheet. The meeting in October is a work session where ideally the city's negotiating team will be updating both the public and the city council on some of the progress they've made. So a lot of this, I think, will be happening in private, where you'll have some meetings with the team and the city just going through the term sheet little by little. I think it will be interesting to see what the team does. Obviously, they said the first term sheet was a non-starter. you wonder if their calculus or their reaction changes when there's an actual vote.
Yeah.
That last one was just sent from the mayor without any sort of backing from the city council. Now that there's a vote, you wonder if that will kick things into high gear.
So, Wright, I'm wondering if you could summarize for us, for our listeners who we're getting a few texts in that say, well, how do you arrive at this total amount? Now that the city has contributed, the state has contributed, and the county is in. Can you kind of summarize for us the sources of money and what this last piece was from the Portland City Council?
I can certainly tell you what the mayor has said, and this has been a big sticking point for a lot of counselors, really, is how do we settle on this number? The mayor says they had a meeting in the early part of the year with the Allen Estate, the NBA, along with the governor and the county. And the NBA essentially said, we need something close to $600 million. So the state came up and figured out, okay, we can contribute $365 million and have that be repaid by player taxes and other taxes generated at the arena. And then they worked backwards from that. The mayor basically said, okay, I think I can get $120 million from the city. And then that left the delta for the county of $88 million for the renovation. And then it was always their goal to go back to their respective legislative bodies to get that approval. But that was the framework they agreed on in January. And what I have not been able to nail down with the mayor is whether the NBA at that point said, this arena needs $600 million worth of work for us to keep playing there, or it needs to all be funded by the local public, the local and state government. It's not clear if the NBA was explicit about who needed to pay so much as this arena we feel like needs this amount of work.
Yeah, it needs this amount of work. Do you have any indication of and I don't know if we do, if the Blazers have come forward and said these are the type of things we want to work on? They've kind of kept that under wraps.
Well, the only thing they mentioned a couple things in their meeting with the city council a couple of weeks ago, and they mentioned redoing the north atrium so that people could get in a little bit easier. There's the renderings of changing up the concourses and expanding the kitchens and maybe making some changes in the 300 level. But the main reason there hasn't been any sort of definitive blueprint is because the city and the team have not been able to come to an agreement on how to pay for the architect. And the city sent a letter. The city actually sent a letter earlier this year in April, and they gave two options. They told the team, look, we can amend the current lease and go 50-50 on the architect using money the city gets from the parking garages as well as the ticket tax. They also told the team, you guys can go ahead and start paying, and then when we have a long-term deal, we'll reimburse you 100%. So the city feels like it gave the team a couple really good options to go ahead and start the architectural work, but the city they've not been able to come to an agreement. I am under the impression that work has started, though.
It's Wright Gazaway, KATU News, and Wright, thanks for taking some time to speak with us. I know you're on the air here pretty soon, right?
Yep. We'll be on air from 3:30 to 7.
3:30 to 7, so we won't keep you too much longer. I'm curious, too, about this bridge lease. I had heard that maybe the Blazers, one of the sticking points was we're not coming to the table until we get a chance to amend this bridge lease, and the mayor's been pretty clear, no, we're not opening up that bridge lease again. Have you heard any more to that extent?
Yeah, the city is not intending at all to change that. And the big issue the team has with it is the possibility of being sued over a very specific clause in the bridge agreement that says the team has to maintain the arena in a first-class standard. And the city's been clear that, look, we cannot enforce that clause right now, and we would only enforce it in the event the team left. So their position is that, the team shouldn't be worried about it because it will only come up if they leave, and if their intention is to not leave, then it never becomes an issue. But the city has said they just don't think it's beneficial, that it's in the best interest of either side to open up this bridge agreement. They just want to focus on the new long-term lease.
All right, Wright Gazaway, KATU News. Now, before we let you go, take us behind the scenes as a television news reporter covering a story like this. You don't have to just write the story. You need to be able to tell it on camera with video. How is that working when you're in a city council meeting? Are you mentally taking notes of which sound bites you want to use as soon as you hear them? Do you just hunker down over a computer as soon as the meeting ends? How are you putting that together in your mind? It's a little different than a print journalism who can just write things down and then type out their story. You've got to tell it on camera as well. How's that work for you?
That's certainly the hardest part, is boiling all this down, a very complicated topic, into a news story on television that people can understand. The lucky thing for us is obviously if you do this long enough, you're able to understand the newsworthy sound bites and how to find those. And the good thing is our system records everything time of day. So if I look at my clock and say, oh, so-and-so said something interesting at 11:53, makes it a lot easier to find that. And then if you follow me on Twitter, you will see that I often will offer some play-by-play as this is happening, which is a beneficial tool when I go back to say, okay, what order was this set in? And then that helps me kind of find stuff as well.
And you can follow him at Wright, KATU. You can find him on Twitter. I was certainly enjoying that. And you promised, Wright, that you wouldn't live tweet that last one.
I know.
You kind of went back on your promise there, and I was happy about it.
I lied a little bit, although it wasn't as in-depth. I think, I always think more information is better, but I think sometimes with these county, city, local government proceedings, more can actually confuse people because there are so many votes. So if I'm critiquing, I learned from the county meeting that maybe I should be a little more thoughtful about what I tweet so that people don't get confused on the process.
Do you ever get confused on the process as you're sitting there? I got to imagine if they sent me to cover a city council meeting, I'd be lost from the opening gavel. How do you know how to even follow something like this?
Lucky for me, the process is the same no matter the topic. So I've covered so many city council meetings that you just understand the process of their debates and the voting, the final vote, and kind of the process. It's really very similar to the budget process, which we follow as well. So you understand, okay, this is how amendments work. This is what this vote did. They still need to make a final vote to approve the overall document. Because I think a lot of people see that first vote and they think, okay, it's approved, not realizing that there are many, many votes that happen along the way.
And right,
I tell people that's why covering city government is so helpful, not only for the sources that you develop by covering other stuff, but it helps you understand the process when you have a topic like this, because a lot of Blazers fans, and I don't blame them, probably don't follow city government a ton. So this is their first time watching all this.
Yeah, I got to imagine when you got this assignment from the assignment desk, were you happy about that? Were you excited to cover this story?
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, I'm an investigative reporter. I'm also our main news anchor in the evenings with Ted Knapp. And, I think my bosses told me early on, like, they really wanted me to sink my teeth into this and to lead our coverage. So I've really taken that to heart, and I feel like there's a duty to the public as well to inform them. So pretty much if there's a Blazers-related thing happening and I'm on the clock, I'm covering it. And a lot of times I'm covering it when I'm not on the clock, if you ask my wife.
And we're very thankful that you're doing that. You can follow him at Wright, KATU. Going on the air here pretty soon, right? Do you have the makeup on right now?
Yep, I put it on a little bit earlier so I could just limit the time I needed to get ready.
Nice. It sounds good. Okay, you've mentioned you've covered a lot of these before. As you look back on this whole process, and you've had a front row seat to it the whole time, what are you going to remember most about this whole process, looking back on it, when hopefully someday we're looking back on this and kind of smiling, say, gosh, remember that kind of rough start we got off to, but look at this beautiful arena we have now?
Yeah, I've thought about, if the deal comes together, you see this playbook play out so many places. I think, the team has never explicitly said they plan to move. So I think there's a possibility that a deal gets done and people think, man, I got worked up really over no specific threat. I think it's been interesting to watch this process. I was telling somebody earlier, these kinds of deals only come up so many, 20, 30
right.
years. So you just don't see them a lot. But like I said earlier, still a lot of work to do, and I don't want to understate that they really need to agree on a lot of terms to ensure there's a long-term deal.
It's Wright Gazaway, investigative reporter and evening anchor for K2 News. Wright, before we let you go, last question. As you are very accustomed to doing in TV news, breaking down the story so that all viewers can digest it, understand it, how would you break down this for our radio listeners as to what's happened so far, what's next? Try to break it down for us in just 3 to 5 sentences so our listeners who can put this together in one small little bite-sized package.
Yeah, I think it's a big step to have the term sheet approved. I think, I wouldn't say it's halfway there, maybe a little bit short of halfway there, but certainly a big step to have public votes where you have two governments committing this funding with terms that the team can negotiate. So I think I would characterize it long way to go, but they're not backed up in their own red zone right now. They're getting closer to midfield.
Thataway, a football analogy right in the middle of a basketball conversation. You can follow him on X at Wright, KATU, and of course see him on K2. Wright, thanks so much for all your efforts to keep Blazer fans and Portlanders alike informed throughout this whole process. We hope to chat again soon.
Yeah, have me on any time, and I certainly will stay on top of this for everyone.
He certainly will. There goes Wright Gazaway, investigative reporter for KATU. I thought that was interesting what he came up with. This is just the opening. He put it in football terms. We're out of the red zone, but, still moving forward, not quite at the 50-yard line yet. I would say we're at the opening tip for this. This is going to be a while. Remember that the Blazers had said well, we're not coming to the table until we open up that bridge lease. And as Wright Gazaway said, well, that's a non-negotiable. We're not opening up a lease that Jody Allen negotiated with us already, and it's not going to be reopened. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes next between the Trailblazers and the negotiating team from each side. Now, I think it's interesting that can Tom Dundon and the Blazers actually, in good faith, not come to the negotiating table when they know that the city has come through, the county has come through, and the state of Oregon has come through? I don't know if Tom Dundon, can he or can't he? Can he come forward and say, well, I don't care what all the city, the county, and the state have done. We're still not where we want to be, and I'm not putting any money into this, and we're at a standstill. I sure hope it doesn't get to that point, and can very big thanks to Wright Gazaway for all the insights that he's had. I would love to hear from you. 248-0620 is the phone number. Where do you think these negotiations stand? Are you feeling better that we have a commitment from the state of Oregon, the Multnomah County Commissioners, and the Portland City Council? Now, tomorrow we'll have Council Chair Jamie Dunphy back on the show. We talked to him before the vote. We'll talk to him after the vote, see if he's a little more optimistic about what's coming up for the Trailblazers. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. 503-248-0620. Of course, the text line at 88528. Lots of texts coming in now. Blazer fans, non-Blazer fans, what do you think? Are you proud? Are you happy of the way the city came through? And the term sheet is now in front of the Trailblazers. What will they do next? And special thanks once again to KATU's Wright Gazaway for those insights. Up next, Chad said, I can do whatever I want when filling in for him. And I've always wanted to be a game show host, like from Family Feud or Match Game from the 70s. So up next, let's play our 70s game show of the week. That'll be up next right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, so far we've had Kenny Loggins twice. We've had Toto. We've had Christopher Cross. Can definitely tell it's Chad Doing's audio vault when it comes to the Rip City Drive. Welcome back in to the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. Only there is no Chad Doing. He's off on vacation. He left the show to me, Curtis Long, along with Brendan Slaughter, filling in for our good friend. And like I said before, Chad is so genuine. I asked him if there are any specific topics he'd like me to cover or any sponsors I need to make sure I mention. He told me directly to do whatever you want to do. The show's yours. Well, for those of you who know me, you know I am a child of the 70s and 80s, long before Brendan Slaughter was ever born. So I figured, how much fun would it be to be, Richard Dawson and host the 1970s version of Family Feud?
Give me a boy's name that starts with the letter H. Jose.
Yeah, that, of course, Steve Harvey hosting that version that's still on today. But before that, Family Feud was in the 70s, and if you'd like to play along with me, 503-248-0620, or you can always text the show at 88528. But let's get to our 70s Game Show of the Week.
It's the 1970s. Time to take the nachos out of the Easy Bake Oven, turn on the lava lamp, crank up ABBA, and slide into your favorite pair of hot pants. It's time for the 70s Game Show of the Week with Curtis Long. Now, here's Curtis.
Oh, thank you very much, announcer man. All right, so we have been talking a lot of Motor Center renovations today. And, of course, Motor Center was originally opened as the Rose Garden in 1995. Let's put the top 7 answers on the board. And according to the first year constructed, can you name the 7 oldest arenas currently housing an NBA team? Brendan Slaughter, you think you can do it? There are 7 NBA arenas currently housing a team. Now, it doesn't mean it's been a little refurbished and maybe some remodels have happened, but have opened before the Trailblazers Arena Motor Center, which was then the Rose Garden in 1995. Can you name any of those, Brendan Slaughter?
Yeah, the first one's going to be Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden. Let's see.
That is the OG, I believe, in the NBA, the oldest bones.
Let's see. You are correct. Madison Square Garden was first built 1967-68. So Madison Square Garden, number 1 on the list. But there are 6 others that were built before the Motor Center in 1995. Any other guesses, Brandon?
Yeah, I've got a couple here.
All right, here we go.
I think I might be able to take the championship on this one.
Let's see.
But I'm definitely going to say where the Jazz play. Delta, Vivint, whatever it is at this particular juncture.
All right, the Delta/Vivint Center. Let's see. That is, let's see what we have there. The Delta Center, indeed, was first constructed 1991, so it is also older. It is going through renovations right now, I believe. So you have got number 1 and number 3 off the board. There are still other arenas in the NBA that were built before the Motor Center. Any others?
Yeah, I know for a fact Minnesota's is up there.
Minnesota, the Target Center. Look at Brendan just running the board on this one. Let's check it out. That is true. The Target Center of the Minnesota Timberwolves, first season, 1990-91 for the Target Center. That is when the Minnesota Timberwolves were an expansion team. That is when the Target Center was first built. So Brendan has already cleared number 1, number 2, and number 3 off the board. There are still 1, 2, 3, 4 that are older than the Motor Center that are currently in the NBA. All right, Brendan, you're still going.
Okay, so, man, I might be running out of names here.
Okay.
I think, and again, if attendance figures are still there, I think the next one is actually the NBA's biggest arena, and I'm going to go ahead and say the United Center for Chicago.
The United Center of Chicago. Let's check out the United Center of Chicago.
Survey set.
He's done it again. That is number 5 on the list. So, Brendan, the United Center opened in the 94-95 season. That was before Motor Center opened in 95. So let's see. He's right there. You have got number 1, Madison Square Garden in New York. That opened in 1967. The Target Center in Minneapolis opened in 1990. The Delta/Vivint Center opened in Salt Lake City in 1991. And the United Center in Chicago opened in 1994. There are still 2 others that are older than the Motor Center and one that opened the exact same year in the 95-96 season.
Oh, this is where I think I'm running out of steam.
Here we go.
Yep. Gosh, I'll throw one more guess out there. Maybe. God, I'm thinking East. Detroit. No, okay, not Detroit. Hold on, let me.
They've gone through a few arenas. The Little Caesars Arena.
Right. Maybe Cleveland?
Cleveland. Let's see. Cleveland is the answer that Brendan is going with. He does not have any strikes against him yet either.
Survey said.
Let's see. Cleveland. Brendan, unbelievable. No, we did not go over this before, but Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Okay, that one was a guess.
Which has been many other names, Quicken Loans Arena or whatever. Its first season was 94-95, 1 year before the Trailblazers. So far, Brendan has cleared number 1, number 2, number 3. Those would be Madison Square Garden, the Target Center, and Salt Lake City's arena. We do not have number 4. That is still covered. Brendan has also got Chicago's United Center, Cleveland's arena, and then there is one more that opened the same year. It's also gone through some renovations, but opened the same year. You were on the right track when you went to the East. There's one that opened the same year as Moda Center, and there was one that opened as an arena in 1992.
I'm going to go, and again, we're at the guessing part of this, part of Brendan's knowledge. I want to say Philly. I think Philly could
Philadelphia.
be
Let's see what Philadelphia. All right, your first strike, that's not bad. 1 strike so far. You got 2 more to go. We're missing 2 arenas. One was opened in 1992. I'm going to give you a hint. It was in the Western Conference. The other opened the same year as Moda Center, 95-96. Remember, in Portland, it was the Rose Garden at that time. So we have 2 off the board. Brendan has done quite well so far. And Rip City Radio listeners, if you want to call in, 503-248-0620, give Brendan some help so that other family can't steal his points away. We need your calls right here, 248-0620. There are 2 left on the board, 1 in the West, 1 in the East. All right, Brendan.
Man, that East one is going to get me for a minute. I'm going to need to think. But as we were talking, I realized, again, I might be a little off. But I feel like Phoenix is relatively old, too.
Okay.
Again, I know this could be a second strike, but we're going to go Phoenix for the next answer.
So Phoenix has gone through quite a few names. The Talking Stick Arena, the Footprint Center. I think it's a different name even right now. Let's see. Brendan Slaughter. He's done it again. That is number 4 on the list as he's raising his water bottle in triumph over there in the other room. The Footprint Center, or whatever it's called now, that first opened in 1992. So you have everyone off the board. The arenas that are older than Moda Center, Madison Square Garden, 1967. Target Center, Minneapolis, 1990. The Delta Center, Salt Lake City, opened in 1991. The Footprint Center is what it was called then in Phoenix, 92. United Center in Chicago, 94. Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. The Quicken Loans Arena opened in 1994. You have one left that actually opened the same year as the Rose Garden did in Portland, and it is on the East Coast.
Okay, so we have one throw. I have a strike here, right?
You have one strike.
Okay, so
you have two to go.
Okay, folks, so let's just do process of elimination here. We're talking 15 NBA teams in the East. We already named a couple, so... Man, you said East Coast. My guess was maybe going to be where the Pacers play. I've actually been to that building a couple times, and it feels like it's in that area. But one sneaky one that I'm going to go with that I think could surprise. If not, I've got to back up with the final. But let's go with the Wizards.
The Wizards
I feel like
Arena,
that one was built somewhere in the 90s, too.
I believe that's the Verizon Center in the nation's capital. Let's see what we got there. Brendan Slaughter.
They said...
Not the Verizon Centers. He's pounding his fist there. He's got one strike to go.
Okay.
Can he make it on to Fast Money? I'm going to give you another hint. This arena opened the same year that Portland's Rose Garden opened. It has had some renovations. It is a team from the Atlantic Division. The Atlantic Division. You've already named the Wizards.
I think
you've named the Sixers.
Yeah, I think you might have given me
All right, let's see.
An attaboy there. I believe survey says it's when we replaced the Boston Garden.
That's right. The Boston Garden was replaced by the TD Waterhouse Center. Let's see if Brendan Slaughter has run the board. He's done it. That's right. The TD Garden in Boston. That opened in 95-96, as did Moda Center, which was then the Rose Garden, 95, 96.
Good knowledge there, Curtis. I knew, like we all knew that Moda Center was on the, older side and in need of some renovations. But when you name that many that were, built before it, it's definitely kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, the eye-opener, though, is that those have all undergone renovations.
Yes.
Moda Center has not undergone any major renovations. But Brendan, extremely impressed with your knowledge. You just aced right through that category and were able to move on. We'll play some more 70s game shows of the week during my time hosting the Rip City Drive. And that just proves you can get away with most anything when you're a substitute host of the Rip City Drive. Hope you enjoyed the 70s game show of the week. We'll have to do another one of those. Up next, we'll kick off the final hour of the show once again with your calls and tweets. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Rip City renovation project? And which are the best or worst months for sports? We'll keep it right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. It is straight up 5 o'clock in the Rose City. Good afternoon, Portland. That's right. Let the negotiations get started. The Portland City Council yesterday agreed to a term sheet that now paves the way to begin talks with the Trailblazers about Moda Center renovations and a long-term lease. The terms commit $120 million up front, up to $275 million for ongoing maintenance. Rip City Not Rip-Off website creator Edan Krolewicz will join us in about 20 minutes to discuss. Official Blazers schedule released today. Portland opens up with just 2 of its first 8 games at home, including the opener October 21st against the Suns. Well, how about a little more Rolling Stones on this Wednesday? The Portland Fire hung through with the Minnesota Lynx last night, trailing by as many as 29 before eventually cutting the Lynx lead to 1 before falling 85-81. The Fire storms into Seattle tomorrow night for a 7 o'clock tip-off. And you feel like you need some more football in your life? Well, we've come to your emotional rescue. 6 preseason matchups on the docket tonight, including Lions at Bengals, Packers at Steelers. Both the Packers and the Bengals lead 3-0. And if you're hoping for Chad doing well, you can't get no satisfaction this afternoon. Curtis Long in on the Rip City Drive next. Oh, Chad put that in especially for me, I'm sure. One of my all-time favorite songs, Phil Collins, Philip Bailey. Fantastic, Easy Lover. Final hour of a Thursday edition. I think I said Wednesday in the update. Thursday edition of the Rip City Drive. And Rip City Radio listeners, you have a substitute teacher here in the iHeart Studios at the beautiful intersection of Interstate 5 and Highway 217. I can see out the window right now, traffic moving along. Hope you're tuned in to the Rip City Drive here with Curtis Long and Brendan Slaughter. For those of you who don't know, Curtis Long, that's me.
The principal.
Yeah, that's right. Longtime elementary school principal here in the Portland area. But I've also been a part of the Trailblazers radio network right here on Rip City Radio 620 for many years. One more hour to go here in Chad's chair, and I have to say that I'm honored that Chad has handed over his lessons plans and asked me to sit in for him on this award-winning radio program. Now, in case you haven't heard, Chad is off this next week or so on a much-deserved vacation. So, substitute teachers, and I know this with my background, they like to have detailed plans, when to teach what, maybe a seating chart. Well, Chad didn't leave any of that, and I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose. He basically dropped a blank template on the show into my lap. Basically, the gist of our planning meeting went kind of like this.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Okay, Brendan, so we surely hope Chad has a great vacation, but let's land this plane smoothly during this final hour. That includes your phone calls, 503-248-0620, texts at 88528. Thanks for all the callers and texts so far, making it much easier on me. Still to come, we'll examine this particular day in sports history. And like any good substitute, let's take roll again right now.
Take roll here. Balake. Where is Balake at?
Yeah, no Balake here, but Brendan's here. You often hear him right here on Rip City Radio 620. It's the one and only Brendan Slaughter behind the glass holding the show together so far. Brendan, how do you think we're doing so far?
Oh, I think it's fantastic, Curtis. I'm enjoying getting a chance to, talk back and forth with you. You and I haven't gotten a whole bunch of opportunities to work together other than the occasional handoff between, Blazers Network and the fifth quarter, what have you. And, like I said, I'm loving life. I'm enjoying myself right now, Curtis.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I haven't worked with you in person quite often, but it seems quite often during the season we're handing over the Blazers Network coverage, which I often fill in for Chad when he's off on other adventures. And we'll say, make sure you stay tuned on your flagship station, Rip City Radio, where you'll hear the fifth quarter with Brendan Slaughter hosting tonight. And there you are on the other side of the glass. Great to see you. Great to work with you in person today. Listeners, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're just tuning in, we've been talking about how sports fans can't possibly look at August coming up on the calendar and think, oh gosh, can't wait for that month. Am I wrong to think that the only sporting event to get remotely excited about in August is NFL preseason football?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Kind of sounds like some of the texts coming in here, too, at 88528. But what we're talking about the best and maybe the worst months of the year if you're a sports fan. And we went to court during the first hour. Let's do it again right here. And for those of you who grew up in the 80s and 90s, you'll know this, Steve. Yeah. Let's head back into the courtroom, shall we? And you, the listeners, are going to continue to deliberate on one simple question, and I want your verdict. 503-248-0620 is the number. What is the best month of the year for a sport fan? Is it March with, of course, March Madness? Oh, I love that song. Can't get enough of that song right there. So the case I put before you today, as we've been doing all afternoon, as I pound my gavel here in the Rip City Radio studios.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
Give me your argument for the best sports month of the year, because at least around here, I think August, that's probably one of the worst. Not that because I get to be in here hosting the Rip City Drive with Brendan, but for the topics able to cover. Now, we're checking on the preseason football right now, and it is... well, it's a shootout right now. We do have a touchdown in the Bengals versus Lions. The Bengals have scored. They now lead 10-0, and it's still a shootout in the Packers at Steelers. The Packers lead that one 3-0. The Colts and Patriots just underway in the first quarter, 4:19 to go. The Pats have taken a 3-0 lead, and the Cardinals and Raiders just underway as well. And that game is scored still later tonight. It'll be the Texans hosting the Chargers in preseason NFL football. And a programming note for you here on Rip City Radio. We've got baseball after the Rip City Drive. Your Hillsboro Hops are taking on the Eugene M's right here in Hillsboro. First pitch at 6:30. You can catch all the action right here on Rip City Radio. And you can also watch the game tonight on Rip City TV. That same station you can get the Trailblazers games on. That will be home to the Hillsboro Hops tonight. Exciting to see that. Brendan, you get to go to very many Hillsboro Hops games throughout the season. You're usually probably on the other end listening to all the games and controlling all the commercials and the radio broadcast.
Yeah, so we are, it's possible for us, and it's something I've discussed, but no, I've actually not been out to the new stadium. My boy Seth Hoyland's been bugging on me to get out there and go, and obviously the season's wrapping up and what have you, and I was telling him, I'm like, hey, well, if I'm not working, I got to, line it up to make sure it works, but man, I mean, just from what I've seen, Curtis, it is incredible.
Yes.
The ballpark that they built out there. And I mean this in the nicest way possible for a high A baseball team.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's just, we've had, again, apples and oranges, but we've seen some other stadium, renovations and what have you, be fresh in our mind. Hillsboro got that done pretty lickety-split.
Yeah.
I'm impressed, and they're doing things right over there.
They did an incredible job with that field, and I think Major League Baseball has put in some stipulations that minor league ballparks have to have certain aspects, and that's where the Eugene Emeralds are in a little bit of trouble right now. In fact, I think they're having discussions with Medford. The Eugene Emeralds might become the Medford Emeralds, or a different name, because PK Park, where the Eugene Emeralds play their home games, not equipped for the specifications that Major League Baseball said that minor league parks must have. And it doesn't look like that it's going to be equipped. So the Emeralds looking for a new home in the next couple of years. I believe that's what's happening right now. Again, the big news coming out of yesterday that still has some Portland Trailblazer fans buzzing. Well, actually, two sets of big news. We'll get to each of them. Really not as dramatic as maybe White might have thought it would have been. It didn't take a last-second buzzer beater with the shot clock running out. But the Portland City Council did indeed agree to a term sheet that accounts for up to $125 million worth of Moda Center renovations, which now means the city's commitment brings that public's total contribution up to $573 million. And Rip City Radio listeners, what do you think about that? $573 million of the public contribution for Moda Center renovations. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. 503-248-0620. Phone calls have been coming in, and text to the text line at 88528. Multnomah County already had committed up to $101 million to cover its portion of the arena project, and the state jumped on early on with $300 million early on. So that total now up to $573 million. Rip City, you've had a little bit of time now to digest the news. How are you feeling about the funding deal and the terms of the deal that we'll go over a little bit later on the show? We've been going over them throughout the show. You can share your thoughts directly with me, 503-248-0620, or you can tweet me directly at principal_long. I appreciate those of you that are getting to me via Twitter or X as well. Got to spell that right. Principal. The principal is your pal, not P-L-E. That's Pleasure Principal. That's Janet Jackson from back in the 80s. I'm going to put it back out to our loyal Rip City Radio listeners. Which months of the year is your favorite when it comes to the sports landscape. Now, I'll revisit my opening argument in just a few minutes, but Brendan, I think we should go back to the other big news today from Trailblazer Land, and that's the Trailblazer schedule has been released. Our buddy Sean Hyken, I think he put out an article on his Rose Garden report, and I think I read the headline as I was scrolling through my latest on the Trailblazer schedule, and I don't like it much at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, just having more time to look at it as we've been going here throughout the show. Last year, Curtis, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the Blazers had more than a 5-game road trip, and I think there's 2 6-game road trips. The one being over Christmas, I mean, selfishly, I'm like, the Blazers aren't going to be here for Christmas, right? So you think about the little things like that. 6-game road trips, as we know, Curtis, until we eventually, hopefully, knock on wood, get some expansion teams in Seattle and Las Vegas, Blazers still going to travel the most miles of anybody in the NBA, and that's just how it works, being tucked here in the Pacific Northwest. But it really seems like this year, those trips are long, and it's good that the Blazers have some veteran leadership, having Dame back in the mix and what have you, that I think will be helpful for those, 6-game trips, as opposed to maybe a couple years ago when the Blazers were kind of still a young, up-and-coming team. So I think that'll be helpful. But, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, Curtis, in life, like, they always say you can't, the things you can't control, try not to get too upset about them. And it's like, yeah, would I have liked to have dreamed up the Blazers a much more friendly schedule, especially to Rip City? Of course. But, it is what it is. The Blazers got a roll. And I guarantee you right now, Mike Nori and company looking at the schedule, probably like, all right, buckle up, let's go.
Yeah, you can't make any excuses about the schedule. 12 of the first 17 games are on the road. 2 6-game road trips, as Brendan mentioned before, the end of the calendar year, including one during Christmas, another 5-gamer in January. We also talked about this a little bit earlier on, a 2-game road trip, with the second being an 8 p.m. national TV game in L.A. versus the Lakers, then 1 game back at home versus the Grizzlies. Then you leave the next day for a 4-game trip. That's basically a 7-game road trip, with one of those nights being in Portland. That is a rough start for the Trailblazers. But when you are the only team in really the Pacific Northwest, and hopefully Seattle is coming soon in the expansion deal, and that'll give the Blazers a little bit of respite there. They do have the Kings and the Warriors. That's about as close as we can get. Also, I believe the NBA Cup brackets have been released, or at least the group play. We'll have to take a look if we can dial those up and see where the Blazers landed. I can imagine they're probably with the Warriors, the Spurs. It's never easy in the NBA Cup as well for the Trailblazers. We'll see if we can get to that as well. I'm going to put it back out to our loyal Rip City Radio listeners. Which month is your favorite when it comes to the sports landscape? As I said, I'll revisit my opening argument a little bit later on in the show if we have time. But up next, another special guest for us. You've heard him several times on the Rip City Drive as we keep on rolling. As you all know by now, Moda Center funding deal slowly piecing together. Earlier this month, Multnomah County voted in favor. Just yesterday, Portland City Council came through. So where exactly do we go from here? Now, on the Rip City Drive, we like to invite as many different perspectives and as many voices as we can. We'll talk with Edan Krolewicz. He's the creator behind the website RipCityNotRipOff. Does he think the city and Blazer fans got ripped off? We'll find out next on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. A little bit of Doobie Brothers bringing us back in. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. Although there is no Chad Doing. He's off on a well-deserved vacation. Curtis Long, along with Brendan Slaughter, doing our best to keep this show afloat while Chad is away. And we know this person will help keep us our heads above water when it comes to trying to swim through all the different aspects of yesterday's term sheet agreement with the Portland City Council. It's the creator of the website RipCityNotRipOff. It's Edan Krolewicz. Edan, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us today.
Of course, man. I'm always happy to be introduced by the Doobie Brothers.
Who is it? Yeah. Who is it? I have been impressed with all of Chad's music. I think he did that on purpose. Brendan's playing it, but I don't know if Chad had any thought behind it. No, Brendan's pointing to himself. That's all him. Brendan's taking all the credit for the bumper music, we call it here in the radio industry. So, yeah, you can't go wrong with the Doobie Brothers. Well, Edan, thanks again for joining us. Let's get right to the point. What's your stance on the term sheet reached by the City Council yesterday by that 8-4 vote?
You know, when you think about how this term sheet has evolved since February, where it basically didn't exist, and everyone said, that we have to eventually arrive there. By the time it got to even last month when they when they announced it, I think some people were excited to see a few terms. Back when the city put it out, I my stance was they put out half of a term sheet. They put out the strong parts, which were about non-relocation and making sure that the Blazers, stick around and they have good, rights for the workers there and all those things. That was good. On the economics, it was pretty bare. And so the fact that they added the rent, the $3 million in rent, I think makes a big difference. And I think it got us, much closer to something where the city can at least say, look, we're at least figuring out a way where we can cover that 120. I still have thoughts more broadly about the whole arena subsidy kind of industry, but I definitely think that we're moving significantly in the right direction. But, I would say simply, if it was an F before, it feels like we're at a C.
So you move them from an F to a C. Okay, so a C grade means we still have some concerns. We're not quite at an A, and I don't think we would get to an A grade. But even to get to a B, that would take some more improvement. So you've got them right at a C. What concerns you about this term sheet or what's going on as part of the agreements that maybe raise red flags for you?
Well, I think that, my biggest concern about all of this is just trying to make sure that we understand a way for the city, for the public governments to be able to get enough money to pay this thing back. I mean, we're never going to make a return on our investment. And people have to remember, when cities are investing, cities and fans are very different. When when you and I are fans, we go to a Blazers game, we're paying money, we're paying tickets, we're paying all those things. That's great for us as a fan. When a city is investing into something, that's very different than saying the fans are investing. That's a government entity putting in nearly $600 million into something. You would hope that they have some kind of semblance of a way to get some of that money back. They don't have to, this isn't private equity where we're expecting them to get 20%, returns every year. We're just saying, can they even cover the cost of this project over the course of these 20 years? And so as it relates to that, I think it's very hard to give them anything but a C because we're nowhere close to that. We're maybe, 25 to 30% of the way there. So, for me, an A would be just recouping our costs, not making money, but just getting to a break-even point. I agree with you. I don't think we'll get there, but I'd love for us to get closer.
It's Edan Krolewicz, the creator of the Rip City Not Rip-Off website. You can find it and just type in www.RipCityNotRipOff.com. You've mentioned a good point that I hadn't thought a lot through yet, but the city pledges this money. They haven't really said where it's going to come from, have they?
Nope. That's one of the biggest things. That's one of the biggest issues for the city councilors is many of them made the point. It's like, if our job is as a legislative branch to decide where to give money and how, shouldn't we have a project plan first? Shouldn't we have some details? Shouldn't we know where the money is coming from? And that's what I think makes this whole motor process very abnormal is usually all of those things are really well defined before it even gets to a council vote. In this case, the whole process was kind of backwards, and I think that's what upset a lot of folks.
And Edan, I'm looking at your website right now. You've got an FAQ section. I think these are great ones. We can go through these. One of them that really intrigues me, it says Portland is a small market city. Don't we have no leverage? I mean, we can't let the Trailblazers leave, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to talk about that, it's funny if you check in there. There's a quote of Adam Silver basically saying the opposite.
Yeah.
Where he came in when Brooke Olzendam interviewed him, and he basically says, yeah, people say Portland is a small market, but it's actually a mid-sized market. You got 2.5 million people. And there aren't many larger cities in the U.S., when you think about it. So, Portland definitely has leverage, more leverage than people say. I think there's a lot of boosters and folks who obviously want to make this process as seamless and easy as possible and just, get the money through, stop asking questions, we love the Blazers and I love the Blazers too. I think even the folks who are more critical and skeptical of this deal, we all love the Blazers and this has never been about, do we or do we not love the Blazers? It's more about, hey, do we think that this system, this kind of arena complex, industrial complex is healthy? And, it seems like it's getting worse and worse. I know that's not exactly the question you asked, but that's kind of like the main thing with all of this in terms of leverage is cities have more leverage than they think they do just by virtue of the fact that they can say, we don't have to give you this money until you give us a deal that's fair.
Until you give us.
And the owners need the money.
Absolutely. And, Edan, I'm a substitute here. I'm learning all the controls. Let's see if we can play Adam Silver's response to that as Portland being a small market city. Let's see if we can play that.
Portland's very much, I call them a mid-size U.S. city. I mean, it's, when you look at Portland and the metropolitan area, it's probably 2.5 million people or so. So it's actually, to me, a very large area.
It's a very large area, according to Commissioner Silver there, and credit Blazer TV for that soundbite there. But you said it right there. So Portland can't use the excuse, hey, we're a small market city, we got to do it. We don't have anything else.
Yeah, and not only that, but we punch well above our weight in terms of, sold out seats and all that stuff. So, a lot of people say, when I bring up Climate Pledge, because Climate Pledge, in Seattle, they have a city-owned arena that needed a renovation. They did a market, they actually put it out to a competitive bid to all these arena operators. And the result of that was this private operator paid $1.2 billion and the public paid nothing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, give me that deal. Like, how do we arrive at, that's just up the road, we can go, it's not like saying, it's not comparing us to, a New York or something else. And then some people say, rightfully so, that Seattle has tons of Fortune 500 companies. They have Boeing, they have, obviously Microsoft and Amazon and Costco and all those big brands, which is totally fair. But if that's the case, then shouldn't we get something between 0 and 1.2 billion? It shouldn't be one of the extremes. And where we started off, it was very much at one extreme, which is Dundon saying, I don't want to pay anything. And so I think if you just look around, even nearby to other deals that have happened, you can see that this is not normal, right? This is not the way that things have to be. And that's the biggest problem from the beginning for us. I was just look at Seattle. It doesn't need to be this way. That's a publicly owned arena. The public paid nothing. The private company paid $1.2 billion. Let's get something closer to that.
And I think I've seen right here on your website as well, you've got a soundbite here, maybe we can play it a little bit later on, that Adam Silver's come out and basically said the NBA does not want Portland to lose the Blazers. They want to keep them in Portland. So do you think that this term sheet are coming forward, are we any closer to easing the concerns of fans that this team's going to be moved?
Chad and I have been talking about this a couple times, and him and I were pretty decisive from the beginning that the team is not moving. I mean, I still believe that. I think it's really, really difficult that the team would leave. Remember, Senator Wyden and Adam Silver are very good friends. Let's not forget that. We got, not to mention all the financial things that are in this lease that at the end of the day, he's getting, $600 million. Most of this is revenue generating upgrades. He's going to make a ton of money. He's going to make another, $40 to $60 million a year in revenue just because of these upgrades. So this is always going to be a slam dunk for Tom Dundon. He played hardball because that's his style, and that's how he's done business his whole life. And so we'd expect nothing else. But I still remain in the same place that I was in before, which is the team is never going to leave. We just got to make sure we get a good deal for the city.
Let's hear from the commissioner again. Thanks to Edan's website. Let's play it right here.
In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we have a 50-year history of just incredible success in this market. I mean, I hear about Rip City everywhere I go. You've had great success here in terms of interest, championships, Clyde Drexler, Bill Walton, players that have come through here that are beloved, Damian Lillard, et cetera. So, it is part of the fabric of this town and city. It's part of the fabric of this state. And we want to be represented everywhere. So that's why it's so important we're here. And as I said, I don't want to leave out among all those leaders. One of the first people to call me when this team, when Paul Allen passed, frankly, was Phil Knight. who said how important it was to him personally that this team stay here. And while he didn't end up acquiring the team, I think in part because of his age and other family situations for him, part of it, Nike not only is one of the most important companies to us, but it's part of the soul of basketball and the NBA. So I know I'm going to see Elliott Hill tonight, the CEO of Nike. I know how important it is to the folks at Nike from Phil Knight on down that this team, be successful here in Portland.
And credit Edan's website for that and Trailblazer Broadcasting for that. Again, do you think Adam Silver looks back, Edan, and says, gosh, I wish my friend Phil Knight could have acquired the Trailblazers?
I definitely think he was hoping that in the beginning. There's a lot of drama that happened with Jody, with regards to that. Also, the Bethals were another, that would have been a great pickup for them as well. And there was, I don't know if you remember all the craziness that happened with the Churns defecting from one ownership group to another to go and join Dundon to buy that. So, there was definitely some drama there. And one last thing, just one last note on that clip. When you talk about Nike spends $300 million with the NBA.
Yeah.
So every year, they have the biggest contract with the NBA. So that partnership is very, very important to the NBA. Again, another big reason why I can't imagine the Blazers would leave here.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this area without the Trailblazers. I'm looking at your frequently asked questions. Renovations are inevitable. The work gets done eventually. Why fight it?
I don't think we should fight it. We should do it. We should all do it. I think we're all into it. And I also, I've said to folks, it doesn't really matter if it's $600 million or $1 billion or $2 billion, right? The question is, can we pay for it?
Yeah.
Right? Does the city have the money to actually do this thing? Because that's the role of the people who are in government, is to make sure that your tax dollars are spent responsibly. And that means, they could spend it on cool stuff. Right? They can spend it on things like this, like arenas, like entertainment districts. That's all great. We just need to make sure that we have enough money flowing back where these folks who are voting for it are saying, look, I made a responsible decision with your tax dollars, and this isn't coming out of the police fund or the fire fund or other things that we need for, basic necessities.
It's Edan Krolewicz, the creator of Rip City Not Rip Off, the website. You can check it out online, of course, and I'm looking at the frequently asked questions again, and I think this is a good one that other people have mentioned to me. Why can't Portland just own the team outright, just like the Green Bay Packers are owned by its city, its fans? Why can't the Blazers do that?
So this is going back into a little bit of the legality of sports, but after the Green Bay Packers did that in the NFL, the NFL basically banned that practice. And the reason they banned that practice was pretty obvious, is because they don't want to have people collectivizing, right, and basically demanding more rights. And that's what the Green Bay Packers have. So the Green Bay Packers can never really leave. And if they can't really leave, then they can't use the threat of leaving to extract more subsidies from arenas and from those cities. And so, that's basically the answer, right? Is if they don't have that threat, they can't extract subsidies from the city. And that's kind of the thing that I've been against from the very beginning, is this is kind of messed up. I think every single person who's a fan, right, regardless of how you felt about should we do the renovation, not do the renovation, to what degree, whatever, I think everyone can agree that this whole process sucked. No one felt good. I don't think there's a single person.
There's our soundbite of the day, Edan. This whole process sucked.
Sign me up for that next year and the year after that. I don't think there's a single person who's just I want to do this all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think any city should have to deal with any of this, right? There should be a process that the league and cities agree to that say, this is how we talk about subsidies. This is how we get to a number. This is how we do it without these relocation threats. And if you're going to make a relocation threat, then make it real, right? If it was a real city who was saying if Tampa or one of these other cities said, yes, we are bidding and we're part of this, that's a different discussion. But to make up this whole where they're going to go to some other arena in some other city in the world, it's in Mexico City. I'm come on, that's not how this process should be run. That's not fair to the fans who have been supporting this team for 55 years and are really the reason why it's worth $4.25 billion is because of the blood, sweat, and tears that the fans have put into this franchise.
And imagine being one of the council members. We had Council Chair Jamie Dunphy on before the vote. We'll have him on again tomorrow. And just talking to him, this is not what he signed up for. He even admits, I'm not a pro at negotiating these kind of things, and I got to keep these council members all on the same path. It's not easy for them either. So as you say, I think that's perfectly sums it up. This whole process sucks.
Yeah, it absolutely sucks, and it sucks for the counselors. And to your point, they can't be experts at everything. It's literally impossible, right?
Yeah.
It would be a crazy thing to expect them to be experts on all this. And the problem is, without details, without these project details, without the things that council members are expect in these types of big capital contributions, it makes the process really hard for them. And so Tom Dundon certainly did not do the city councilors any favors.
No, he certainly did not. All right, Edan Krolewicz, the creator of Rip City Not Rip Off website. Before we let you go, you've been following this as closely as anyone in the city. Where do you think it goes now? The term sheet is in front of the Trailblazers. They have said before that a term sheet is a non-starter. What do you feel happens next?
I mean, I think it sounded like, I think Wright Gazaway from KATU got some response from the Blazers, basically saying, we're really happy this happened. We're excited to go into negotiations, et cetera, et cetera. So, I do think it was a lot of posturing from the Blazers around, this is a non-starter. Saying it was a non-starter was an easy way for them to not have to actually say anything about any of the terms, right? If you just call the whole thing a non-starter, then it's like, okay, well, what's a non-starter? Oh, we didn't tell you, so we'll get to it later. So that's why they called it a non-starter. But yeah, listen, they're going to get down to the table. If Dundon runs this process the way he's run every other process with the hiring the coaches and everything, is he's going to take it to the last minute, right? That's his style, right? He's going to use his leverage as much as he can until the very last moment. And then he'll give the city whatever deal he can give them, the best deal, and give them kind of an ultimatum. And the city will have to decide on that in December. But the TLDR of all that is basically, I think they're going to get to something. It's not going to be what the city wants. No one's going to feel happy at the end of this, but it'll get done. And hopefully we can start talking about the playoffs once this is over.
And we heard that from Carolina fans as well, that it's going to be like this, that no one's going to be happy, but the deal gets done in the end. That's what they went through in Carolina, so hopefully it'll be the same result here in the Rose City. Edan Krolewicz, thanks so much. I always enjoy visiting with you and love hearing you on our station. I'm sure we'll have you back on soon. Thanks so much for all your work on the website and for all your information. Always great to talk to you.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
All right, there he goes. Edan Krolewicz, the creator of Rip City Not Rip Off, a website you can check out online. Of course, special thanks to him once again for those insights. Well, just one segment to go here on the Rip City Drive without Chad doing. We'll take a look at this day in history. You may be surprised at some of the things that took place, some sports related, others not so much. That'll wrap up the show right here on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. Brendan, did you dial up this Wham?
Of course.
I don't want your freedom. No, we do want your freedom, Chad. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive with Chad who? Fun show we've had today. Curtis Long, Brendan Slaughter filling in. It's been great filling in for him. It'll be either me or Brendan Slaughter through next week while Chad takes some time away. Brendan, how are things going in there for you? Any big plans for this Thursday evening?
Just circling back as we talked about earlier. My life's a little busier right now with Oregon State Fall Camp going on. So, piggybacking that off of this and all that. But again, it's my favorite time of the year. Other than that, maybe trying to get down to the river this weekend.
Awesome.
We'll see what's on tap there. How about yourself, Curtis? What about you?
I am, and I'm going to talk about this when I return. I am going to be out this weekend. I am driving my youngest son to college. It is
awesome.
Kind of an emotional time for me, and we're going to drop him off. He's going to Occidental College in Los Angeles, so we are going to drive down and then fly back, so it'll be kind of emotional to see the youngest one off to college on his own.
There you go. That's a special moment, Curtis.
Yep.
Not to age myself too much, I can still remember when my folks dropped me off down at Oregon State all these 12 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So, it's a special moment, and make sure to tell your son to soak up all 4 years, man, because it goes by too quick.
Yep, he's going to do great. I know it, but that's where I'll be. Brendan will be filling in as well. Chad will be back. Not next week, but the week after that. Did you know that August 13th, an important day in history? Why? Let me tell you why.
Think you know what makes today so special?
I don't know what those words mean.
Just to make sure that you do, here's Curtis Long with Today in History.
Yeah, let's take a look at what happened on August 13th. Brendan, one thing we have not talked about at all, and that is today's the Field of Dreams game. Going on right now in the cornfield of Iowa. Let's get that off. Can't hear myself think with that music going. But yeah, Field of Dreams game going on now. It's Philly and the Twins taking place in the Iowa cornfield. So right now it looks like the Phillies on top of the Twins 5-1 in the top of the fourth.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Gosh, it's probably been, Curtis, 4-ish years since they debuted that?
Yeah.
Not to, again, just aging time, but man, it was a amazing concept when they brought it back for the first, or brought it in for the first time. I still love the concept. Let's play more games out in the Iowa cornfield, Curtis. I'm all about it, man. Maybe we need to make things a little simpler, like, random little aside, like I saw recently that, I believe it was Kerry Eggers dropped in an old picture of the Blazers playing a preseason scrimmage outside at Civic Stadium. And
That's
I was
right.
like, my goodness.
I remember when they did that.
Yeah, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah,
like, really
SummerSlam at Civic Stadium.
I mean, I'm just saying, maybe the old ways are better, Curtis.
SummerSlam. They also had a slam dunk contest where instead of judging the dunks, what they would do is they would continually raise the rim. So they would see who could dunk at the highest height. And I think Clyde ended up winning that. It's like 10 feet 7 or something.
Wow.
But they would continue raising the rim. That was the slam dunk contest. Yes, Brad, that is a good pull. SummerSlam, that's what the Blazers used to do. They did have a little scrimmage outside at Providence Park, which, of course, at that time was Civic Stadium. Let's go back in history. Way back in 1939, the Yankees routed the Philadelphia Athletics on this day 21-0. That's right. That was a baseball score, establishing an American League record for margin of victory in a shutout. 21-0. In 1962, minor leaguer Bert Campaneris, this is interesting, he pitched ambidextrously, try spelling that, in a game for Daytona Beach, an unusual switch pitching episode. So he pitched some innings right-handed, he pitched some innings left-handed. I don't know if we have too many players that can do that these days. In 1967, another pitcher, New York Mets rookie Tom Seaver, threw the first shutout of his Hall of Fame career, a 3-0 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates. August 13th, 1969, Baltimore Orioles pitcher Jim Palmer completed his comeback from arm trouble by throwing a no-hitter in an 8-0 victory over the Oakland A's. 1979, St. Louis Cardinal outfielder Lou Brock became the 14th player to collect 3,000 hits. That was on this day in 1979. Then we'll skip ahead to 1997. Not sports related. Brendan, you're probably going to know this one. The animated show South Park debuted on Comedy Central on this day in 1997. In spite of, or maybe because of, its foul-mouthed child protagonist and off-color subject matter, it was an immediate hit that made stars out of creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Oh, and still all these years later. I mean, I know when, recently when CBS, brought their whole new team in, they're like, oh, yeah, we got to lock in South Park. So I'll say I was always more of a Simpsons Family guy myself, but I got to give credit to my sister and brother-in-law. They've been getting me into South Park lately, and I'm not going to lie. Curtis hit it right on the nose. Those foul-mouthed little kids, man, they can make you laugh.
Made its debut on this day, 1997. Skip ahead to 2008 because right around this time is often Summer Olympics time. 2008, Michael Phelps won the 200-meter butterfly and helped the United States capture the 4x200 freestyle relay at the Beijing Olympics, raising his career total at that time to a record 11 Olympic gold medals. And then in 2016, he swam the butterfly leg for the victorious U.S. 4x100-meter medley relay team. And that was ensuring ending his competitive career with a record 23 Olympic gold medals, 28 medals overall. Michael Phelps on this day in 2016. Also on this day in 2016, the New York Yankees released Alex Rodriguez, ending his Yankees playing days and effectively closing the career of one of baseball's most prolific and controversial stars. And the Mariners had him back for their 50th anniversary. I saw that he got a nice round of applause up at T-Mobile Park not too long ago when the Mariners did that. 2017, Justin Thomas won the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow by 2 strokes for his first major title. Now, Brendan, we just have a couple of minutes left, and I got to say, thanks to everything that you've done to make my fill-in here so much easier. I am fascinated looking. See, all I have to do is talk on a microphone here. Brendan has about 14 knobs and 75 buttons in front of him. They're all lit up in different directions. He's punching them all in the right times. How many different things do you have going on in that room at one time?
Oh, I tell you, Curtis, somewhere, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, somewhere in like 2019, the Brendan that saw this room for the first time is still like, how? And I can remember asking Michael Shacker, what about this? What about this? What about this? And just with time comes expertise, man. And, knock on wood, I haven't had anything, give me a scare lately. But, there's a lot of moving parts, but I got it down by now, buddy. It's like second nature.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 19 sliders across that board. And you figure 8 buttons around above each one. Some of them are lit up, some of them aren't. You've got some knobs to turn.
We're only using about half, so we're
my
red
goodness.
hot and rolling.
And you've got monitors going in there, so you're recording what's going on. We got Hops baseball coming up at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to run some bonus coverage of the Rip City Drive before the Hops start at 6:30. They take on the Eugene Emeralds out at Hillsborough Ballpark. You can hear that right here on Rip City Radio and see it on Rip City TV. Brendan Slaughter, fantastic job today. Really fun working with you.
It was awesome, Curtis. Looking forward to the next time we get a chance to work together, my friend.
It'll be coming soon. That'll do it for this edition of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. Without Chad Doing. Huge thanks to our listeners today. Lots of great calls and tweets. Thanks to our guest, Wright Gazaway, KATU, Edan Krolewicz of the website RipCityNotRipOff. I'll be back tomorrow for an abbreviated show. We'll be on from 2 to 3:30 before a little preseason NFL action. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, Rip City. Thanks for hanging out in the principal's office here on Rip City Radio 620. And right now, class is dismissed.